Welcome to Oneness and Wellness. We have a very special guest with us tonight, Steve Cunningham. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have some lovely guests here who are going to be asking questions and joining Marsha Reddington-Lawton and myself. And so let me tell you a little bit about Steve, and he can add more to it. But he is a very, very talented man. He started Bodywork Revolution in Lexington Center, and he works with other therapists there with different modalities. He's a licensed massage therapist. He's an acupuncturist. He's a certified yoga teacher for all those yoga fans out there. And he is, his real specialty is working with people who have chronic pain. And he believes, I listened to a radio show that he did, he says that we create many times our own pain and we can cure our pain many times. So welcome, Steve. We know that the foundation of the Bodywork Revolution is about the 5 pillars, bringing us healthy challenges and certainly a way to deal with pain.
Well, before I go into the 5 pillars, I think it's appropriate just to sort of lay a foundation out in terms of the prevalence of chronic pain. Very, very common. In fact, the rates of chronic pain, there's evidence that it continues to go up. Right now, even children and adolescents are having chronic pain and surgeries and needing to go to the PT offices. So it's really an epidemic. And so I've been doing this work about 10 years, and what has become apparent to me is a couple things. The first thing is, as you were saying, we do cultivate our own pain. So it sounds harsh, but I think that's really the case. And the reason why we cultivate our pain is because we are set up because we're Americans, doing repetitive tasks over and over again. And a lot of times we're mindless, so we're not in our bodies, we're not present, and we continue to do these repetitive things. And those include, obviously, sitting is a big one. And not only are we sitting at our desks for hours and hours on end and not taking breaks, but we're driving in traffic during stressful situations in our cars and sitting as well. So is it surprising that back pain is really prevalent? I don't think so.
How many out there have back pain? I do.
Yeah, so it's common. And you know, this goes for neck pain. How many of us have the phone and we're cradling the phone and typing? And so there's another example. I recently had, a couple years ago, a client who came in with left back pain, upper back pain behind his rhomboids. And he went to all these different types of doctors and PTs. And so when he came in, I started talking with him and having a conversation during the initial interview. And I asked him, are you right-handed or left-handed? He said, I'm right-handed. So I was a little thrown off because this pain was in his left hand, or his left side of his body. So I asked him what he does for work, how he spends most of his day. And he replied that he's a guitar player. And he plays the guitar, right, with his left hand and arm stretched out, and he plays at night. He's practicing, and he's also, during the day, he's trying to put an album together. So there we go. So that piece of information really actually helped us solve his chronic pain. And I think, you know, it would be nice to sort of see other practitioners and other clinicians start to have a dialogue about what people are doing during the days, because those are clues on why people get the pain.
Right. One of the things that I heard you say in the radio talk show was that a lot of time you know, somebody will come in and they say, okay, it's my foot, my ankle is bothering me. And you might say, okay, well, let's look at other parts of your body, because some other part of your body is affecting the pain in your foot.
Right. Well, our approach, and it goes for acupuncture as well, acupuncture and body work, or orthopedic massage, another term that we use. We basically, it's a different paradigm that we use. So, for example, if someone has foot pain, we acknowledge that they have foot pain, but we actually look at the myofascial meridians, or some people call them the functional lines or sinew channels. And it's basically the way our muscles in our body are connected, and they're sort of woven together in links. Have our little, so you can imagine if you have foot pain, even if you have foot pain that's on the outside, so that might be the fascial line that comes up on the lateral side. So we would pay attention to that and work that meridian. Maybe it's a little bit here and on the top part, the dorsal part. So that would be the front line of the body, the meridians in the front line. So it's basically acknowledging the part that's not working, but also all the body parts and muscles that are woven together that help the body move and perform the functions.
Wow. Okay. So do you see people finding, do they get help? Are they able to work through the pain? And do you have some success stories?
Sure. We have our number of success stories. Most of our clients are come from word of mouth, from other clients that have seen us. But you know, the person the guitar player was a really satisfying success story that worked out well. But I think that, you know, it's interesting because how do we really define success?
Right.
And is success really getting rid of all the pain? Maybe, maybe not. Is success maybe helping the client tune into their bodies and become more present? I think that's a winner.
Masha would agree with you, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, you know, it's different how we, you know, it's a process, really, the work that we do. And before I go into the 5 pillars, I just want to also mention that the other thing I think that we really need to acknowledge is that when we're born, we don't really have, we're basically forced to engage in life. So we don't have a choice. We're come out of the womb, we're crawling around, we have to engage. And also what that means is we have to engage with gravity. So we forget that gravity is a constant. You know, the physics, you know, when you drop something 9.8 meters per second square, I think that's the constant there. Right. But that's something that we're always struggling with, most of us today. And especially the majority of the problems that we see have to do with a certain type of posture. It's called flexion posture. And that's where we're rotated in like this.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
bad.
And
I don't know about you out there, but
yeah.
Oh, look at you, Charlene. You're sitting up nice and straight. I said, boy.
And so you can imagine that, you know, all of our vulnerable parts, you know, when we were walking around on all fours, all of our yin organs, all of our vulnerable parts were protected. And so now we're standing, and so now we're, you know, our heart's vulnerable, our genitals are vulnerable, our abdomen's vulnerable. So we have all this vulnerability here. And so people get into this pattern because we live in a crazy world and they collapse. And then, you know, add on the Blackberries and the iPhones and Candy Crush on the iPad, we're looking down. And we continue to look down, and gravity over time is going to pull us down. So what we do is we also help clients sort of rebalance and come up. from gravity. Because really what's happening is that when a client's in a flexion posture, they're struggling with gravity. So they need to use more effort to stand up, and gravity is always going to win. So that's one of the pluses, the benefits of getting frequent body work, and also even doing yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong. Those are all modalities that are really interrelated, and what they do is they help lift, and that's the whole, there's a whole, that's really our mission, I think, as human beings, to evolve and to evolve upright.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's several yoga practitioners out there in the audience, and I think it was you, Diane, that said, I have no pain. Kathy, too, no pain because of working with the yoga.
That's right, yeah. It's a great complementary form. We recommend it to a lot of our clients. In fact, some of the self-care education that we do are using different yoga postures, and also breathing. Just breathing alone.
Oxygen's good.
Yeah. Moving the energy.
Definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk a little bit about the 5 pillars?
Sure. Well, as
because this is a foundation of the
Yeah.
work that you do.
I think the 5 pillars really that was an evolution in and of itself. Because, well, again, I mentioned we've been doing this almost 10 years. And, every year, every client, we get little bits of information and try to put things together. And so starting to tell people about what we did, the 5 pillar, because we do a lot of things. But so we've broken them down. We've broken our approach down into 5 foundations, 5 pillars. And the first one is to stop the pain. So, or at least reduce the pain. And so how we do that is we look at Chinese medicine, for example. What is pain? It's a stagnation or a blockage of qi and blood, energy in the body. And so that energy travels through those meridians that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And so what we do is we move the stagnation. We identify the functional lines that are involved in the pain, and the myofascial meridians, kind of the same thing. And then we go in with usually slow, deep pressure, and we melt and rehydrate and lengthen and move the energy in those channels. Mm-hmm. So that's the first pillar.
I just want to, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to tell you a little story that I once went to a Chinese doctor in Chinatown in Boston, and I was having problems with my leg, and he didn't speak any English, and I went with a woman who was a background of Chinese, and he had a little wooden peg, and he started working on my foot, and I said, this is so painful. And he said, hurt? I said, no, you're killing me. And he was working on it. But when I left there, I felt like I was floating. It was an amazing process.
Yeah. In some sense, it's probably, he was working on the functional line, but he was probably working at the end of the functional line, which actually talks to the whole line itself. Mm. So it sounds like that's what he was doing.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but now the second...
The second pillar. The second pillar is basically restoring function to the body. And that's a big pillar. They're all really big pillars, but the function of the body, so obviously we're talking about range of motion. Can you rotate your head? Can you look up and down? Can you raise your arm up? Can you bend over? Can you extend back? Does your knee flex? But also, what are the arches of your foot like? Are they collapsed? How can we make that arch more functional? And so there's some things that we can actually do to make the arch functional, because that's really where everything starts anyway on the feet.
We're here with Steve Cunningham, and he's talking about the 5 pillars, and we're up to number 3.
That's right. So the third pillar that we use in helping people with chronic pain is education. And we always say, they say location, location, location. For real estate, we say education, education, education. and that that can take a long time, and helping people get little nuggets of information each time they come to us. And so some of the education that we do is, for example, how to stand. And
So show me how to stand.
okay, so how to stand. So first of all, a lot of us we are laterally rotated. Okay, kind of like a little the classic ballerina stance. I forget what it's called. And so gravity's pulling down, and we're trying to lift up. And this is sort of like a yoga Tadasana posture. This isn't, but what I'm about to do is. So we need to push up through gravity through our center, but we can't access the lift because we need to spiral up in our legs and lift up like this. So we first bring the person's awareness when they come in. We say, look down at your feet, okay? And then we have them move their feet in, see how you feel. And they take a little baseline, and then we have them rotate their feet out again, see how you feel. And usually when you're like this, your energy spills over. And when you're, hip width distance, this takes a lot of the pressure off the sacrum and the hips, and you're able to lift up. And then a little bit of tuck in with the abdomen, and a little pulling in with the abdomen and lifting up through the front line. And then this is the key part. I pretend I have a little fishing line, and I draw it with it. So you want the sternum to come up. Not so much, but so we're walking around like this, right? Mm-hmm. So we just want to lift. So the sternum lifts. And so there you go. Yeah.
I'm smiling because you're lifting your microphone, and I don't want you to. I want people to be able to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another example is we recommend a very ergonomic, a very proper sleeping position, and the sleeping position is actually on the right side of the body.
I have a good friend. I talked with her today, and she said she always sleeps on her right side with a pillow between her legs.
Yeah.
I said, oh.
That's right. That, again, a lot of these things actually come from the classic Chinese medical texts, which are thousands of years old, that have been translated, and there's a lot of knowledge in the texts that are out there, even in the Yoga Sutras as well. But the classic Chinese texts say you need to sleep on your right side. And part of that rationale is another common sleeping disorder that we have is obstructive sleep apnea. So it's associated with snoring and usually obesity, and there's an obstruction in the airway when someone's sleeping. So they're trying to sleep, but their airway collapses, and then they have to wake up, clear their airway, and so they keep waking up and falling asleep the whole time. So when you're on your right side, that helps take the pressure off and keep the airway open. Remember?
It's amazing. I discovered that just by my husband snoring, and I would push him on the side, and he'd roll over on his right side, and he would stop.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I didn't really know what was behind that, but I found it out by experimenting.
So, and then so you're sleeping on the right side, so your heart is up, facing the ceiling, so you're not sleeping on the heart, right? So it can pump and do its job at night. And then the liver is on the right side. So the blood pools down in the liver while we're sleeping. It's stored in the liver. We have a pillow between our legs to keep the hips open, to take pressure off the spine and the glute muscles in the sacrum, and to keep the circulation going. And then if you want, you can have another pillow here to keep this channel open. So that's the sleeping position. That's the recommended, the most ergonomic sleeping position.
Wow, thank you. That's good information for those of us who didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like me.
Right. And then also lumbar supports and how to sit, and also even how to walk. So maybe we can do some of that in our later part two.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thank you. So that's a lot of, Masha, you want to?
I was saying, so that was number 3, was the education.
Yeah.
That's extremely helpful. The support of the pillow I discovered years ago, and it made a world of difference as far as opening up the chest and aligning the back. There's, do you use a pillow for the arm? Isn't that an amazing difference?
You use it on your arm too, Charlene? Oh, wow.
Yeah, to create that opening. What a difference. My husband has a few thoughts about all the pillows I have.
You never can have too many pillows, right?
So now we're going on to 4.
The fourth pillar. We bring some practical applications of acupuncture into the fourth pillar. And so what we like to think about for the fourth pillar is what we call the tree of life. So we tell our clients that basically we use the analogy that they're a tree. So if they come in with arm pain or neck pain or back pain, so we say, well, the limb of your tree needs mending. So we use stopping the pain and returning function to those meridian lines. So we heal the limb of the tree, we mend the limb, but then we also have to nourish and fertilize the root of the tree. And so what we do with that is we do acupuncture.
Great.
Yeah, so we have a special clinic on Friday. It's $34 for an hour treatment.
Really?
Yeah, so it gives
$34 for an hour treatment. That's
gives
worth
our
a trip to
clients
Lexington.
the opportunity to be on the fast track.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So the fifth pillar is one that I'm really interested in, and that's basically calming the emotions and lifting the spirit.
We're with you on that.
Yeah, yeah. And if you ask the majority of clients if they're comfortable with you, and you start having a conversation with them, a lot of times, almost every occasion, there's usually a significant life event stressor that occurs right before the onset of the chronic pain. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to that in our second show, because the second part 2, because that is such an important part of the whole education piece too, because we live in a very stressful world, and I think our bodies absorb a lot of that stress. So thank you for being with us. Please join us for the second show coming up soon.